This is the second of 3 videos on which language is easiest in terms of different elements, from the point of view of a British person, that's me, between Spanish, French, Portuguese and Italian. The subject this time is cognates. So what is a cognate? According to the Oxford Languages Dictionary, it is of a word having the same linguistic derivation as another. In simpler terms, for our purposes, that just means it looks or sounds like a word in another language. I say looks or sounds because with the differences in pronunciation, I think it's often much easier to determine cognates in written text than it is in the spoken word. When language learners talk about cognates helping with language learning, they're basically saying that they can recognise a word without looking it up because it's so similar to their own language or possibly between 2 languages they are learning. Cognates basically make language learning easier. Except, well, sometimes they are false friends. They look very similar to something in your own language, but they have a different meaning. Fortunately, these aren't that common, and you can probably tell from the context that this is the case. So, which of these 4 languages has the most recognisable cognates to English? If you were starting out learning your first language, and this was important to you. Well, English is littered with words from 2 sides. The Germanic, which we're not considering here, because it isn't a Romance language, and French. And the fact that French is a Romance language derived from the same Latin roots as the other 3 languages means they all have similarities. But I do think we have to put French first because of its high volume of words integrated into English. Let's look at some examples. You have words which are exactly the same as English, like café, which I've always used the accent with in English, but not everyone does. Danger, bizarre, capable, machine, secret. And words that are just a little bit different, like histoire, normalement, adopter, continuer, il, musique. I think we can agree those are all quite easy to guess. But what about some of those false friends? Cave, meaning cellar, not cave, although that is a kind of a cave, sometimes. Demander, which is to ask for, not demand. Along the same lines, but not the same. Formidable, which just means something's great in French, whereas formidable in English is something that is impressive or fear-inducing. Affaire, which is a business. Blesser is to wound. And bringing up the rear, coin, which is a corner. Second, I'm putting Spanish because I think the spelling of the cognates and the pronunciation of them is the next closest to English. Plus there are, again, a lot of them. And by the way, a lot of the words I'm highlighting in these lists have similar cognates in the other languages. Here are a few with exactly the same spelling. Chocolate, director, general, inevitable, popular, radio. And some that are almost the same but not quite. Atención, colección, vocabulario, curioso, decidir, verificar. And of course a few false friends. Embarazada, which means pregnant rather than embarrassed. Sensible, which is sensitive and not sensible. Realizar, which is to carry out something, amongst other meanings. Constipado, which is to be with cold. I don't think I need to say what you might have thought that was. Éxito, which is a success, an achievement, not that door with the lit up sign in the cinema. And libreria, which is a bookstore. Coming in third is Italian. Italian does have a lot of cognates with English, but a much higher percentage of them have a different spelling, which makes them that little bit more difficult to learn. But there are some that are exactly the same. I would say, though, that a lot of those are related to modern technology, where the English word is adopted, entertainment, and food, where, once again, we have often adopted the Italian word. As a side note, Italian uses a lot of English words where you really wouldn't expect it. So, computer, cinema, internet, pasta, video, film. I'm sure there are others, but certainly for technology, if you use the English word with an Italian accent, you're probably halfway there. But there are a sackload of words that are just that little bit different, but recognisable. Istante, originale, naturalmente, educazione, possibile, diversità. That little bit of difference in so many words definitely makes it more difficult to remember their spellings, but some general rules, like genuine Italian words usually have a vowel at the end, miss out the N between I and S, and if in doubt add a Z at the end, are rules I live by. I'm only half joking. I often guess word endings and get them right. What about some false friends? Fame, which is hunger, not fame. That would be fama. Not confusing at all. Fine, which is the end. Morbido, which is soft. Really a lot more pleasant than morbid. Parente, which is a relative, not a parent. Camera, which is a room. An actual camera is a lot more long-winded. And of course there's romanzo, which is a novel. Of any kind, not just a romantic one. Up last then is Portuguese. Why? Because of the pronunciation of Portuguese, cognates are much more difficult to determine in speech. And in my more limited experience, there are also fewer cognates that have the exact same spelling. I did find some though. Popular, familiar, particular. But there are more that are really close, like diretor, lista, restaurante. You'll recognise these as being very close, if not exactly the same, as Spanish. But there are a ton that have quite a different spelling, that you can still guess. I've tried to pick one only of each type to give you a flavour. A lot of the differences are very different to the other languages. Wish me luck with these pronunciations. Informação, opinião, oportunidade, possível, frágil, ansioso. Yeah, some of those are really weird to our ears, but written down not too difficult to determine. And here are a few false friends. Collar, which is a necklace rather than a collar. Idioma, which is a language, which it has to be said we do use in English sometimes. Jornal, which is a newspaper, not a journal. Novella, which is actually a soap opera, which I guess is like an acted out novel. And you'll love this one. Pasta is a folder. Do you want to know what pasta is? Okay, it's macarrão, a bit like macaroni. The thing with cognates is that there are some things you can learn to help you. There are lots of words that translate pretty directly with equivalent endings. If you learn those ending equivalents, you can increase your guessed vocabulary immensely. You won't always be right, but you might be close. Cognates are a great tool for language learning. So that's all from English, but what if you already know one of the other of these languages? Which will have the most cognates with the other? Well, honestly, they'll all have a lot, but I would divide them into two groups. French and Italian are the closest to each other, and Spanish and Portuguese are closest to each other. And in each case, the pronunciation is different enough that you might get the best of both worlds by pairing these up. But whichever you choose, there will be a lot of crossover.